Hey guys, chapter 3 today called The Big Bang. Settle in and enjoy. The next morning was beautiful, as fresh and crisp as clean laundry snapping on the line. It was a great day for going to the Dell. Jesse got out of bed and went to the window. No $1 million car. He laid the Thunder Egg back in the sock drawer, got dressed, washed his face, strapped on his watches. Downstairs, Aunt Maggie was kissing Uncle Joe goodbye. Then she kissed Daisy. Jesse got to the bottom of the stairs just in time for his kiss. "Take care of that Thunder Egg," Aunt Maggie said. She hugged him extra hard. Twice. "One for me and one from your mom," she whispered in his ear. "Safe trip, Aunt Maggie," Jesse said. She smiled and smoothed his hair. Outside, a car horn honked. Aunt Maggie looked around one last time. She liked leaving everything in apple pie order. "Don't forget to change your socks," she told them. "Brush your hair when you get up and eat at the table. No reading while you eat. No eating over the sink. Keep everything in apple pie order." "We will," all told her as fancy as they followed her out. "Have a great time. See you Friday." "And brush your teeth," Aunt Maggie added as she got into the airport cab. They stood in the driveway and waved until the cab left. Then Jesse, Daisy, and Uncle Joe turned around, went back inside, and ate their cereal standing over the sink. It's not that they hadn't heard Aunt Maggie loud and clear, but how else, they all agreed, were they going to keep the house in apple pie order? After breakfast, Uncle Joe said he was headed to the rock shop. "So, where are you two guys gallivanting off today?" he asked. "We're going to hang out here, then go to the Dell." "Have fun," he said. "I'll see you at dinner time." It was normal for Uncle Joe to spend the entire summer day at the rock shop, especially when he had a new project to work on. The moment Uncle Joe was out of the door, Daisy said, "Get the Thunder Egg." "Where do you want to start?" Jesse gave her a puzzled look. Then last night's business about the key to the magic doorway came back to him. "I guess the closet in my room?" Jesse nodded. Good plan. Daisy followed Jesse into his room. He took the Thunder Egg out of the sock drawer. Daisy solemnly marched over to the closet and pulled open the door with a flourish. Jesse knew what to do. With one hand, he shoved aside the thicket of hockey sticks and the cross sticks and baseball bats, clearing a path to the wall and back of the closet. "Should I close my eyes?" he asked Daisy. "I would," she said. Jesse closed his eyes, held the Thunder Egg in front of him, and took baby steps to the closet. He did his best to imagine the back wall melting away into trees and the clutter of the floor turning into pine needles and dirt, just like the wardrobe had dissolved for Lucy. Bump! The Thunder Egg hit the back of the closet. He lowered the rock slowly. I don't think it's working." "Are you sure you're believing hard enough?" asked Daisy over his shoulder. "Very, very hard," Jesse said to the wall. Daisy backed out of the closet, hauling Jesse after him, and spun around to face her. "What went wrong?" she asked. He looked down at the Thunder Egg. It remained stonily silent. Jesse knew how it felt. "I don't know," he said. Daisy knitted her brow. "Well, try harder next time." After that, Jesse and Daisy walked to every room in the house with the same results. They saved Aunt Maggie's vast walk-in closet for last. "Let me try this time," said Daisy. She took the Thunder Egg from Jesse and went to the closet. When she reached the back of it, she gave the wall an impatient kick with her sneaker. Then she sighed. "Okay, so it's not a key," she said. "It's just a talking rock." She spun around and put the Thunder Egg back into Jesse's hand. And I'm sorry I'm so grumpy. It's just so darn disappointing. It's enough to make me cry. Jesse went to his bedroom, opened his sock drawer. Sorry to put you through all that, he said to the Thunder Egg, placing it back in the drawer. The Rock still didn't say anything. Jesse was beginning to wonder if he was ever going to speak again. But he was fond of it all the same. He went down to the kitchen and found Daisy already at work, preparing their picnic lunch for the Dell. She was making fresh lemonade. Her expression was fierce as she bore on the electric juicer. Jesse whistled softly as he grabbed a can of tuna fish, opened it, and got mayonnaise from the refrigerator. He kept whistling as he mixed the tuna salad and spread it on bread. He slapped the tops on the sandwich, sliced each in half, and wrapped them in wax paper. Whistling still, he packed them, along with hard-boiled eggs, in their single backpack, which they shared, taking turns carrying wherever they went. Quiet, Daisy snapped at him. He was about to say, gee, can a person even whistle? But then he heard it too. A rattling sound, very faint, but very distinct rattling sound. Jesse and Daisy stared at each other, mouths open. Jesse's eyes went to the ceiling. The sound was growing louder. It was coming from upstairs. The cousins headed for the stairs. By the time they reached the foot of the staircase, the rattling turned to a rumble. It shook the photographs on the wall. From where they were standing, Jesse could tell that the noise was coming from the front of the house. In fact, it was actually coming from his bedroom. They started up the stairs, gripping the vibrating rail. The sound was thunderous now. At the top of the stairs, they turned to see the doorknob of Jesse's room jiggling. That's when the look on Daisy's face switched from excitement to fear. Jesse bravely crept over and put his hand on the doorknob, but he pulled back. It's hot, he shouted over the din, rumbling his fingers of the seat of his pants. Now he was scared too. If the house blew up, it would be his fault. Talk about getting things out of apple pie order. Aunt Maggie would send him packing for sure. This is ridiculous, said Daisy, squaring her shoulders. Then she went to the laundry cupboard and took out a washcloth. Wrapping it around the doorknob, she turned it. The knob clicked, then kablam! Whoosh! The bedroom door blew outward, knocking both cousins to their backsides. The air was filled with green and gold and the powerful smell of hot chili peppers. Jesse and Daisy scrambled to their feet and ran into the room, coughing and waving in the dust. The sock drawer was on the floor. Socks were everywhere, and the pieces of beautiful green and gold crystals sparkled among them. In the middle of everything, something that looked like a lizard was standing on its hind legs and peering around. It was no bigger than a newborn kitten. Its bottom half was stout and covered with shiny scales. They were green or blue, depending on how you tilted your head, with the rainbow sheen of an oil-on puddle. Sprouting its shoulder blades were two dark green humps. Not so much wings, but like the idea of wings. Two long dark green ridges that ran down its back and pointed tail. Its head looked like a seahorse, only broader. Jesse knew very well what he was looking at, but he didn't want to say it. So instead, he said, "Whoa!" "Holy moly!" Daisy laughed uneasily. She added, "It's a good thing my mom just left." Then she pointed to the creature and said, "Oh, look, poor thing." The lizard had got tangled up in one of Daisy's purple knee socks and was wiggling and shaking, trying to free itself. Shouldn't we help it? Daisy asked. Jesse had the same urge, but he realized even though it was a tiny thing, he was a little afraid of it. It's beautiful, said Jesse. He wasn't sure that was the right word. Yes, it is, Daisy said softly. So beautiful. You know when you're in a pet shop and some animal, usually one of the warm, fuzzy variety, looks at you and you just know you could be friends for life? That's the way Jesse felt when he looked at the creature. Only Jesse was the one who was warm and fuzzy, and the lizard creature was the one doing the shopping. When the lizard finally shook itself free of the sock, it flung its forepaws and said, Jesse! It was the same voice he had heard yesterday, only much clearer now. Jesse thought if gold could talk, it would sound like this voice. Fresh, clear, rich, metallic. Jesse! It cried again. Then it cocked its green head and set its bright eyes on Daisy. Who? It wanted to know. Her? Asked Jesse, pointing to his cousin. That's Daisy. Daisy, it said, as if her name had been two very distinct parts. Daisy laughed. That's right, you can talk. Can talk, it said, then said, Who am I? You, said Daisy, shooting a quick look at Jesse, are a baby dragon, right, Jess? Jesse nodded, grinning, happy that Daisy had put thoughts to his words. Right. Who am I? The baby dragon repeated, each word coming out like a gold coin dropping into a cup. It kept looking from one cousin to the other, cocking its head to one side then the other. The green horn poked out between its eyes. A pulse throbbed in its green pale throat, and its uneared belly gave off a glow like sunlight shining in spring leaves. Its tail switched back and forth impatiently. I think she wants us to give her a name, said Jesse. How do you know it's a girl? Asked Daisy. Because Uncle Joe said it was, and he speaks a secret language of rocks. And I don't know. It looks like a girl, doesn't it? He said. Sorta. I guess, now that you mention it. So, what are we going to name her? Daisy asked. After some thought, Jesse said, Let's call her Emerald. Emerald, said Daisy. I like that. Like that, said the baby dragon. Emma World. The cousins laughed giddily. She was so cute and eerie at the same time. How about Emmy for short, said Jesse. Good idea, said Daisy, because she's kind of short. The cousins laughed again. Jessie, Daisy, Emmy. The little dragon sang, bouncing up and down on her sturdy hind legs. The cousins grinned happily. This is even better than a key, said Daisy. Jessie nodded. Way better. Where did you come from? Daisy asked. I mean, besides the thunder egg. The dragon looked at her and said, From the time before. Jesse felt a ripple of excitement run up his spine. The time before? The time before what? He asked. Emmy looked around, the pulse throbbing in her pale throat. I forget, she said. Then she repeated, From the time before. I forget when. When's the time before, do you think? Jessie asked Daisy. Daisy was flapping her hands, which she did only when she was excited. Maybe it isn't a magical land we've come upon. Maybe it's a magical time. Cool, said Jesse. Emmy, eat! Now! Said the dragon. The cousins came back to earth with a thud. Emmy, eat, Emmy, eat now! She was bouncing up and down like a rubber ball. Up, up, up. I think she wants you to pick her up, Daisy said to Jessie. How do you hold a baby dragon? Jessie asked as he started to move towards Emmy to do her bidding. Daisy thought, my guess is very carefully. Very funny, said Jessie as he leaned down and held out his hands in a cupped way. The dragon scrambled into them, her claws digging into him. Ouch, he said. She felt like a ball of needles in his hands. He dumped Emmy back to the carpet. Up, Emmy said. Emmy, up! Daisy looked around. Try this. She took her purple knee sock and put it over Jessie's hand. Jessie picked up Emmy again. Brilliant, he said to Daisy. Jessie started walking with tiny steps, holding the dragon in front of him. Daisy ran ahead, but not before shutting the door in the mess of Jessie's room. We'll clean up later, she said. In the kitchen, Jessie sat down and set Emmy carefully on the kitchen table. He propped his chin on the table so that he could meet the little dragon eye to eye. May we take your order? He asked her. Food, Emmy cooed, blinking her eyes. Well, that's a help, said Daisy. She paced up and down. What kind of food is the question? Jessie screwed up in his face and said, let's try and remember from books and movies and all that what dragons eat. Food, cooed Emmy, hopefully. For Emmy! The cousins put their minds to it. Finally, Jessie said, I'm seeing a big pile of bones picked clean, laying outside a dark cave. Daisy made a face. Let's try something else. The cousins fell silent, thinking. At length, Daisy said, what about small woodland creatures? Jessie said, remember my African rock python I wrote you about? I used to have to catch live rats and feed him. Not fun. Plus, that snake had the worst breath, dead rat breath. Forget that, said Daisy. If she wants to eat rats, she can catch them herself. And get mouthwash. Jessie! Daisy! Food, food, food! Wailed Emmy, her volume increasing. I think my brother and his wife left a box of Paul's rice mush, Daisy said, raising her voice over Emmy's racket. Paul was Cousin Aaron's baby boy. Let's try Paul's rice mush then, said Jessie. I'll make sure Emmy doesn't fall off the table. You mix the mush. Mush, 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 Emmy chanted, jumping up and down. Jessie made a blockade on the table. It might have been safer to set Emmy on the floor, but he was afraid she would scramble away or that they would accidentally step on her. Daisy banged open the covers till she found the box of her nephew's rice cereal. She poured into a bowl, added milk, and shoved it to the microwave and jabbed at the buttons. While the microwave hummed, she dug around in a drawer for a baby spoon. Don't make it too hot, Jessie said. Daisy yanked open the microwave door, took out the bowl, grabbed the spoon, and held it out to Jessie. Jessie stared at them. I guess this is my job, he said. The first thing she said was your name, Daisy reminded him. Emmy stopped jumping and peered cautiously at the bowl of mush. Oh boy, this ought to be fun. Jessie yanked off the knee saw and took the bowl and spoon. Then he set the bowl on the table and scooped up the cereal. Hand shaking, he held out the spoon. Okay, Emmy, come and get it. Mush, mush, mush! Emmy made a running start and jumped into the bowl. Splat! Sending the rice cereal everywhere. Daisy grabbed a roll of paper towels and wiped the rice cereal off Jessie's shirt and face. Jessie lifted Emmy out of the bowl and held her with one hand, while Daisy wiped off her talons. Then he set Emmy down again and held the spoonful of rice. Mush is for eating, not swimming. Emmy opened her mouth. The inside was bright pink, and her tongue was forked. Her mouth was the only part of her that wasn't some shade of green. There were 2 buds in front, but not much else in the way of teeth. Jessie tipped the spoon in her pink maw. Emmy closed her jaws. Jessie waited for her to swallow the cereal. He had the next spoonful all ready to go. Pooey! Emmy spat the rice cereal in Jessie's face. Bad, she bawled. Bad, bad, bad. Not food. Daisy marched to the refrigerator and flung open the door while Jessie wiped his face. She tapped her foot. Let's see what else we have. She pulled out leftover rice and beans. She probably won't eat anything that's bad for her. We're just going to have to keep trying until we find something that works. Jessie offered the rice and beans. Blah! Jessie picked up the beans and rice grains off of his face. Then they tried cranberry sauce. Gunk! Jessie fished a cranberry out of his ear. Marshmallow fluff? Daisy thought. Pooh! Bits of marshmallow flew into Jessie's eyebrows and hair. Okay, no more sticky stuff, said Jessie. Pickles? Emmy spat them everywhere. Mayonnaise? Hold the mayo, Jessie shouted the second too late. Emmy spewed chunks of salami, bologna, and tuna fish. You know what? Jessie shouted over Emmy's hungry howls. I think we need to buy some lizard kibble. What's lizard kibble? Daisy shouted. She had lined up ketchup, peanut butter, relish, and chutney. Spun off all the lids and scooped spoonfuls of Jessie to try and feed Emmy. Mealworms or live crickets, Jessie shouted. He raised his arm and cowered as a storm of ketchup, peanut butter, relish, and chutney all pelted him. It was the world's biggest food fight, only it was completely one-sided and unfair. What makes you think she'll like worms and crickets better than this stuff? Daisy said, tossing Jessie a towel. Jessie threw the towel over his head and wiped his face. Then he swabbed off the table, the chair and floor. She's got to eat something. She'll starve. Look at her, he said. The little dragon lay in a mess of food. She was panting. Maybe we should go online and find out what to feed her, said Daisy. Jessie sighed. I guess it's worth a try. We have to clean up first. You clean in here, and I'll keep an eye on her. I'll vacuum upstairs. Plan? Said Daisy. Plan, said Jessie. And that's the end of our chapter today. Tomorrow, chapter 4 is called The Care and Feeding of a Dragon.